It's no secret that we live in changing and difficult times, a time when terrorism overshadows our day-to-day activities. And yet, despite this all-too-real threat, people, communities, and cities all across America continue to go about their business, confident that attentive eyes are on the alert. And few eyes are more watchful than those of America's transit employees. As transit employees, we are the first line of defense against those who wish to disrupt and disable America's public transportation systems. So it's imperative that we know what to do if and when we encounter the warning signs of transit terrorism. One of the most common targets of international and domestic terrorism is the world's public transit systems. As past attacks have shown, they are extremely vulnerable and hard to secure.
As transit system employees,
our eyes, our ears, and our voices are deterrent to crime,
including terrorism.
Keep your eyes open for anyone or anything that is out of place or suspicious.
And make it a point to report what we see to our supervisors or security personnel.
Employees play an important role in security by knowing their work environment and noticing when something doesn't seem right.
It's up to us to make a difference. It's up to us to observe suspicious packages, objects, persons that exhibit abnormal behavior.
By observing and reporting,
we extend the reach of normal law enforcement.
While it's true that our job skills are somewhat removed from those of security and law enforcement, our eyes and ears are nevertheless critical components in enhancing and extending the efforts of our security personnel, a concept similar to the popular Neighborhood Watch program.
Like the residents of a neighborhood watch, we're the first to know if someone or something doesn't seem right. And we shouldn't hesitate to report anything that seems
strange, wrong, or out of place. Let's use our knowledge of our working environment, our experience and common sense to determine if something is just not right.
If you're still not sure, do what I do. Go with your gut.
If something doesn't feel right, chances are it's probably not.
The best thing we could do is be proactive. By that, I mean do things that make it tough for the terrorists to do what they do.
As frontline employees, we should report all suspicious activities, such as an unlocked door, when we know it's supposed to be locked. Good housekeeping means cleaning up after your mess. If you clean up after your mess, then one can tell if something's strange or out of order. If we see someone in a sensitive area, we should politely question their presence.
Can I help you with something?
Oh, I was just taking a little break.
Another thing that'll help lower the risk of becoming a target is a daily inspection of your immediate working area. Inspecting our buses should be done as a normal routine. When receiving and releasing our buses from maintenance, during your pre-trip inspection, during layovers, or when the bus has been left unattended. Make sure you check your vehicle's exterior, including the wheel wells. Other compartments, the engine, AC, and your exhaust stack, the undercarriage, and the bike rack. These checkpoints can help keep us out of harm's way, but don't stop there. The inside is just as important as the outside. Look for signs of tampering or suspicious packages, devices, wires, or substances on the floor, in compartments, around the seats, internal lift, your steps, and your operator's area.
These practices also apply to those of us working on our rail transit systems, who, along with getting commuters safely to their destinations, are in a unique position to spot other potential targets.
During each run, keep an eye out for anything suspicious underneath or in between the rails. Look for out-of-place objects near or around switches, next to electrical signals, and communication lines. Check out fences and retaining walls, as well as bridge supports and beams, and scan tunnels for people and objects that don't look like they belong.
At the beginning and end of each trip, look for anything suspicious. On the seats, under the seats, or any out-of-the-way places. Or especially if you find a panel that's open, it should be closed. Also, in the yard, you want to look for anything else suspicious. In the coupler, or anywhere else underneath the car body.
You should also be aware of unlocked power boxes or unprotected switches.
In short, the key to keeping our transit system safe and secure is to observe and report anything that our experience and common sense tells us is odd or out of place.
In other words, trust your instinct. If something doesn't seem right, chances are it isn't.
As transit employees, we look upon thousands of faces each and every day. Now, because of recent events, we're being asked to spot the one or two who might be a threat to our safety and well-being. Is it him or her? Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's all of them. Or maybe they're just honest, law-abiding Americans. The point is, a person's skin color, cultural attire, or ethnic background shouldn't label them as suspicious. However, since we are on heightened alert these days, it's important to recognize some of the more telling factors that are likely to arouse suspicion.
Suspicious is someone who's wandering around in an unauthorized area
without proper ID.
Suspicious is someone who looks nervous and jumpy.
Like they're waiting for something to happen.
Whenever I see someone hanging around, staring at the passengers, or watching the employees too closely.
In other words, we should focus on a person's behavior. It's how they're acting and what they're doing that makes someone suspicious, not their skin color, or the way they dress, or their ethnic heritage. As transit professionals, we should base our suspicions on 3 solid factors: where the person is, when they are there, and what they are doing. Now, let's suppose for a moment that we encounter someone who is acting or behaving in a suspicious manner. What's the proper way to handle it?
First off, don't be confrontational. Simply approach and ask if you can help them with anything. Politely ask to see an ID card or badge. If they can't produce one or explain what they're doing there, offer to escort them off the premises. Next, notify a supervisor or security about the encounter. And if possible, keep the person in sight at all times.
As always, we should observe and report what we saw, where we saw it, and any physical characteristics of the person in question. But keep in mind, before we confront someone, let's exercise caution and always use our common sense. On any given day, America's transit systems move hundreds of thousands of people. So it's not surprising that the number of lost and found items left on a bus or train or at a transit facility is in the thousands. The question is, which bag or package is simply forgotten and which one is a potential threat?
We find unattended bags all over the place. Could be next to a seat, or could be next to a phone booth.
We find packages and suspicious objects on top of and next to the vending machines.
Sometimes we find them on a bench.
We find lost bags on train platforms all the time.
As we all know, most of these unattended items are usually harmless and were left for no reason other than carelessness or forgetfulness. One way to address this ongoing problem is to constantly offer a friendly reminder.
Please check and make sure you take all your personal items with you, and thank you for your...
On the other hand, some unattended bags are not just lost and found items and pose a clear and present danger. So it's important that we can tell the difference between what's harmless and what's not. A suspicious package is one that looks as if it has been purposely hidden from sight. It can be under a bus seat, in or behind a trash container, or wedged behind or between vending machines. Other things to look for are tanks, bottles, and bags with wires, batteries, clocks, or timers attached. Or some of the most obvious indicators are when a note is attached to a package, envelope, or bag. Or when the bag or package matches something that's been described in a threat, whether it's attended or not. Hollywood loves explosions. In fact, no action movie would be complete without one or two fiery blasts to pump up the excitement level. But in real life, bombs have a more sinister and lethal purpose, which makes them a popular weapon of choice for all types of terrorists. Many of these bombs are improvised explosive devices with one single-minded purpose: to kill or maim as many innocent victims as possible. These improvised explosive devices are even more devious because they're easily concealed in familiar, everyday items. Even more frightening is the fact that almost all improvised explosive devices can be assembled from easily attainable materials such as fertilizer and other readily available chemical ingredients. Fortunately, because we know what to look for, our chances of spotting a potential threat are better than ever. In the event we do find something that looks dangerously suspicious, there are several things to remember.
First, do not touch, cover, or remove the device. Leave it where it is. Next, remain calm, evacuate passengers, and direct them to a safety zone. Then, as quickly as possible, report the incident to the proper authorities. Do not use a cell phone or radio because they could detonate the device.
The fact that tragedy was averted in this case wasn't luck. It was because the operator knew what to look for and how to react. First, the operator was on the lookout for suspicious activities and objects. Next, she conducted a sweep of her work area when she noticed suspicious behavior. Being able to recognize suspicious components went a long way in diffusing a potentially explosive incident. By immediately reporting what she found, security personnel and law enforcement were able to respond and remove the threat, and based on the operator's description, apprehend the suspect.
Remember, luck had nothing to do with it. Observation and reporting made all the difference.
Nevertheless, as recent events have shown, explosive devices aren't the only weapons terrorists rely on. Sometimes their weapons are even more insidious and just as dangerous.
Attention all transit, you have a 1033-958. I'd like you to evacuate your
The release of chemical, biological, or radiological agents on America's transit systems is also a very real threat. But if we remain alert, we can help minimize the chances of a successful attack. These agents can come in various forms: liquid, vapor, fine powder, all of which can have a toxic effect on the human body. The fact is, many of these agents are initially hard to detect. Substances like anthrax, other biological agents, and radioactive materials will not show up in immediate symptoms. The effects of exposure to these substances are usually delayed by days, weeks, or longer. Chemical weapons, however, usually show up in immediate reaction and symptoms. These symptoms can be an effective warning of their presence. Some of the symptoms include
difficulty breathing, uncontrollable coughing,
sudden collapse or seizure,
complaints of nausea, blurred vision, or unusual odors.
But how do we know for sure that these symptoms are caused by chemical agents? The most definitive way is to remember the 2 or more rule. Simply put, the 2 or more rule means that if 2 or more people are suddenly displaying the same symptoms, chances are something right there in the immediate environment is causing it. So take note of items that could be emitting unexplainable pungent odors, or suspicious containers like abandoned aerosol or manual spray devices, or be aware of a cloud, mist, vapor, fine powder, fog, or an oily liquid. But do not get too close, or you can be exposed to the agent yourself. Again, use common sense when assessing any threat. And if we determine that a true threat exists, report it immediately. And should an attack or incident occur on our shift, there are things we can do to keep a bad situation from getting worse. First and foremost,
whatever happens,
remain calm, be cool,
don't panic,
and most importantly, protect yourself.
If an incident occurs, passengers will naturally look to us for direction and assistance. So it's imperative that we remain calm and take charge of the situation. Remember, make notification as soon as possible and protect yourself and others. Remember, regardless of the chaos around us, it's important that we stay alert so that we can provide critical information to the proper authorities. And to help us remember what steps to take until help arrives, we went directly to the experts.
Protect yourself first so you can help others. Notify your supervisors and the authorities and follow your company's procedures.
Assist others and be on the lookout for secondary devices.
Evacuate passengers and avoid injury or exposure.
And step away from the bus as far as possible.
Gather all the information that you can and keep communication lines open.
We are the transit system's first line of defense against terrorism and all levels of crime. We can protect ourselves and others simply by observing and reporting those things that appear suspicious or out of place. Keep in mind that it doesn't do anyone any good if we don't report something that doesn't seem right. As the eyes, ears, and voice of America's transit systems, it is our responsibility to recognize the warning signs and report them as quickly as possible. The lifeblood of public transportation is in our hands. By recognizing the warning signs and reporting them, we not only strike a blow against terrorism, but stand as the front line of defense for America's transit systems and the communities they serve. Remember, our eyes, ears, and voices are what keeps America's transit system safe and moving.